December 27th. We finally found a place to call home. For now. We've tried to keep track, and I think the wife's baby might be due any day now. We're alone in this beat-up old building, but at least we have each other. And soon our firstborn child will be entering the world. My lovely wife found a children's book in the school on the way here. It's an alphabet book. Right now, our little one is learning their ABCs from inside the womb. It's hard to imagine that we could be excited after all we've been through, but this baby will be the best blessing we could ever hope for. Just seeing her smile brings warmth to my heart. If we could just keep this quiet and scavenge for enough food, then maybe we could make a life here, at least for a little while. Hello everyone, it is negative 21 degrees here, feels like negative 33. It is really the dead of winter. I thought it would be fitting to play Dead of Winter in this weather. In the warmth of my home, I decided to table Dead of Winter, and I want to show you a solo variant that is posted on Board Game Geek. This is a variant by user John Chris Miller, and it is called Family First. This game is a meta-cooperative game with a trader mechanic, but it does have a cooperative or a solo variant inside the rulebook itself. Now, instead of doing the official solo cooperative version of the game, I thought I would try this variant by Chris Miller, because I took a look at it and thought it would be fun to play through. So let me show you the setup and let's get to it. To start, lay out the game board like a typical game with the locations across and the colony board. You'll also need the crossroad cards and the crisis deck, and of course the various location search cards. Set morale to 7. And set round to start at 8. Add 1 zombie to each non-colony location, and at the hospital it is overrun, so you're going to add a bunch of zombies to fill out the survivors locations. Instead of the zombie locations, you're going to put 4 zombies on the 4 survivor locations. That means we cannot go to the hospital at this moment. Add 1 helpless survivor token to the colony. This represents the wife of the player that you're controlling. To win, we have to complete the special objectives and phase 2, which I'll talk about in a little bit, and we have to survive 8 rounds. I'm not going to go into the usual rules of Dead of Winter in detail here. There's many great tutorials on YouTube already outlining how to play the game. I will be pointing out rules here and there as I play just to explain things, but for an official, thorough review, I recommend doing a quick search on YouTube. There are many resources out there. Here are the special rules for the scenario. We're going to start with a character, just one. You can choose a random character or select one if you wish. So I've chosen David Garcia. David has an influence of 50. He has a attack value of 4+, a search value of 3+. So he's not particularly good in attacking for sure. He's okay in searching, but his ability is anywhere when performing a search with David, you may look at 1 additional card. So he is really good at searching. There are various difficulty levels, and I decided I would play at the medium level, which starts with 4 action dice and 10 starting items. I shuffled the starter items deck and dealt 10 cards to David, and his starting items are 3 food, 3 fuel, and 4 junk. Other special rules: when we roll the exposure die, the frostbite icon, that's going to be a wound instead, so there won't be any frostbites in this game. And if we ever roll the tooth, we're going to lose our investigator and lose the game. So we want to mitigate the risk of rolling the die. Also, when we search, we're going to ignore all outsider cards. So if we draw one, we're just going to place it at the bottom of the deck and draw another card. The wife in the colony can also clean 2 ways per round as a free action. So we can automatically discard 2 cards from the waste pile every round. During the colony phase, we must pay 2 food if our survivor is outside the colony to feed for the wife, I guess. And 3 if your survivor is in the colony. Finally, the hospital is off limits until phase 2, which triggers with a cross-rolled timer mechanic. And I will talk about it in a short moment. During the course of the game, we need to complete some special objectives. First, we need to find a Tika T3 tactical rifle, which is in the police station, because we need this item to kill off the monsters that are overrunning the hospital. We need to get to the hospital to find some items for the wife. We also need to find a lighter, a switchblade, scissors, which are located in the school and the gas station. At the beginning of each round, we're going to flip over a crossroad card and ignore all the text, but just look at the title. If the title begins with the letter A, B, or C, it will trigger us to go to phase 2, which means we can now go to the hospital. But of course, we can't get there until we kill off the zombies. After the crossroad card triggers phase 2, we need to find in the hospital adrenaline shot and medicine. If we have all these items, along with the other items I mentioned before, we can head back into the colony, place the items into the waste pile, add a helpless survivor token to the colony, which represents newborn, and survive until the game ends. If we survive all 8 rounds and complete all those things I just talked about, we win the game. That probably was pretty confusing, but it will all make sense as we play this out. So without further ado, let's get to the game. As with a typical game, we are going to start with our player turn phase, which starts with revealing the crisis. We have a blizzard. We need fuel equal to the number of non-exiled players. That means we need 1 fuel. If we fail, we cannot move until the end of the next round and we lose 1 morale. Optional, add 2 additional fuel cards to gain 1 morale for preventing the crisis. The crisis is something we have to deal with each round. We're going to draw something and try to fulfill that condition. And this round it is for fuel. Next, we'll roll our 4 action dice. We have 5, 3, 3, 1. Now we can use our action dice to take our turn. There are a couple of actions, as indicated on the player aid here, that require an action dice, and a whole bunch of others that do not require an action dice. So the actions that require an action dice is attack, which means we look at this number on the character card here, which is 4+. If we have a die that is greater or equal to 4, we can use that die, say the 5, to do an attack action to kill off a zombie. The second action is search. So this is a search value, 3+. If we have die greater or equal to 3, like this one, we can use it to search, which means we can go to the various non-colony locations and draw cards from those stacks to see what we get from there. Next, we can use any die to barricade, which helps us fend off zombies. We can clean waste from the colony waste pile, and we can clean 3 waste cards with 1 action, and that keeps our colony clean and our morale high. And we can use a die to attract 2 zombies. Probably won't do that very often in this game. Again, there are tons of other actions that do not require an action dice, like playing cards from your hand, contributing cards to the crisis, moving, spending food tokens, trading, which won't happen in this game, and voting, which also won't happen in this game. Before we do any actions, however, let's draw the first crossroad card. It is a horse. Normally, I would be quite happy with this card, but in this variant, we actually ignore everything, and we just look at the title, which is horse. Horse starts with the letter H, so we do not trigger phase 2. Only titles that start with A, B, or C would trigger phase 2. So we're going to discard this crossroad cards now. The first thing I will do is to play some cards from my hand. I want to contribute to the crisis, which requires fuel, so I will play my fuel card to the crisis contribution. And I'm just going to put it face up because this is a solo play. Next, I will spend a fuel, and this goes to the waste pile now. And I'm going to travel. So David is going to the library. Traveling between locations is a dangerous thing in the dead of winter. It's cold out there and there are zombies vying for your flesh. So when you travel, typically you have to roll an exposure die and see what happens. Normally, if you roll the blank, nothing happens. If you roll this symbol, you would get a wound. If you roll this symbol, this is a frostbite, which means this is a wound that keeps on giving you 1 health damage every turn. The worst thing you can roll here is the tooth. That means the zombie manages to bite you, and you're probably either dead or turned into a zombie. So if we roll the tooth, we lose the game. Simple as that. To mitigate that risk, I've spent a fuel card which says, when you travel, do not roll for exposure for that move. By spending the fuel card, we've eliminated the need to roll the exposure die. David is going to spend his first die, the 3, to do search. And he can do so because the 3 is greater or equal to the search value here. He is going to search for stuff in the library. David's special ability means that whenever he performs a search, he may look at 1 additional card. So he's going to draw 2 and pick 1. And he drew 2 outsiders. But in this variant, we don't use any of the outsider cards. So I'm just going to put this back at the bottom of the deck and draw 2 more. And we have food and a blueprint for the police station. Well, this is the card that I wanted, so I will take this, and the food will go to the bottom of the deck. David is going to equip police station blueprints, and this card allows him to, once per round, when performing a search at the police station with a survivor, you may look at and keep 1 additional card. So this is going to be very helpful as we search for the rifle in the police station. I thought that went pretty well. So let's spend another search die, the other 3, to search again. We have a reading lamp and the gas station blueprint. Well, that really isn't a very hard decision. I'm going to pick up the gas station blueprint. David was pretty successful in his searches, so I think he will. Let's make him move this time. He is going to move to the gas station, and to move, that does not cost any dice, but he would have to roll for the exposure. And I could spend a fuel card, but I don't think I would do so for this particular move. So let's roll. And he rolled a frostbite, so that's pretty bad. In this variant, that just means a wound, but he is going to take a wound. So I'm going to give him a wound. And this is a plastic heart from the dollar store, which they had selling for Valentine's Day. So I thought that would be kind of cute to add to the game. Alright, gas station. We have our blueprints. He's going to spend his 5 to search, and because of the gas station blueprints which he acquired in the library, he can look at one additional card and keep one additional card. So let's draw, and we find medicine, fuel, which we need, and more medicine, all of which are very useful given the current situation. I think David will take a medicine and a fuel. So this medicine goes to the bottom of the deck. He will spend his last die to set up a barricade. So he's going to put a barricade. And that will help us fend off the zombies when they spawn. So that would be all of his dice actions. He can still do other actions that does not require a die, such as playing cards. David will play 2 food cards to add 2 food tokens to the food supply. These go into the waste. And I'll add 2 food tokens, which would go here. The wife is going to clear out 2 waste cards as part of her free action. And he should be done. There are no more things that he could do this turn. And so that would end the player turns, and we would go into the colony phase. First, we'll pay food, and because David is not in the colony, we only have to pay 2 food. Next, we check waste. There's only 1 card in the waste pile, so we're okay. Then we resolve the crisis, which requires 1 fuel, and we've contributed the 1 fuel, so we are also fine there. Then we're going to add zombies. We're going to add 1 zombie for every 2 survivors in the colony. So there's 1 there, but we round up, so we have to add 1 zombie. And we have to add 1 zombie to locations with survivors. 1 zombie for each survivor, that is. So gas station gets 1 zombie. Next, we check our main objective. Well, we certainly haven't completed our objectives, so we'll move the round track and move on to the next round. And that would be the first turn of Dead of Winter solo variant. Special solo variant, that is. Stay tuned to see whether David Garcia can protect his family in this apocalyptic world.